we can all be making progress towards our dreams, but until we start dealing with these three problems, we're going to be stuck. We're not going to be able to go forward. Hello, this is Lorraine, and welcome to Healthy Living, Spirit, Soul, and Body. So here I am at the ocean. Good morning, world. So peaceful and calm. I believe that God has created each of us and has put dreams in our hearts so that we can live them out and bring His will to pass. He's created us as pieces in a puzzle. We are specifically shaped and designed so that we can fit into God's plan like no one else can. But the question is, how do we discover and awaken those dreams so that we can live them out? What are the steps that we can take? I believe that our dreams are hidden in our past, in our disappointments, and in our pain that we don't want to remember. If we don't deal with certain things in our hearts, our dreams will stay hidden and die with us. I don't believe that anyone wants their lives to end up that way. Terry Savelle Foy always says that we need to give ourselves permission to dream. But sometimes when we do that, all sorts of things in our past and in our hearts become weights that hold us back. Until we deal with these, it will be like fighting our way out of a paper bag, and all that will come of it is frustration. There are things that we need to do to break free from those bondages. I believe that we were all created to soar and do those things that we only imagined. We just need to break free and accomplish and live out those seeds of greatness. And as we let those weights go, His grace will always lead us to His utmost purpose for our lives. So what are those weights that hold us down? When God reveals the dreams to us, when God puts those little inklings in our heart about what He would have us to do, but we don't go forward. What are those things that are holding us back? I believe that there are three basic weights that hold us and keep us from going after our dreams. And really, we can all be making progress towards our dreams, but until we start dealing with these three problems, we're going to be stuck. We're not going to be able to go forward. So what are those three things? The first weight that we have that holds us back is blaming others and not taking responsibility for our lives. A lot of times, and I know I was there, we all get in a state where we start thinking about our past, we start thinking about those dreams, and we get sad because we believe that it's other people's fault that we're in this position, that we haven't followed our dream. So when we do that, it hinders us because there's always going to be people or things that will keep us from our dream. There's always going to be things that we have to walk through. There's always going to be barriers. So if we feel that it's other people's fault that those barriers are there, then we have no control. But when we start taking responsibility for our lives, when we start saying, all right, this happened to me. Say my parents got divorced. Okay, that was one of the things that I had to deal with. So for a while, I lived with that pain, but it wasn't until I realized that I can't control what happened to me, that my parents got divorced, but I can control how I respond to it. I can take responsibility for how I respond. And that goes with any situation, no matter how bad it is. That's why you hear all these people that have been through horrendous things and came out on the other side, not smelling of smoke. Now, part of that was God intervening in people's lives, I believe. But still, the people had to give God permission to intervene in their lives. They had to trust in Him. So it still goes back to the person taking responsibility for their lives, the person making decisions and not believing that what other people have done are the barrier that will be able to keep them from going forward. They're believing that other people are more powerful than their own choices and than God Himself. So that's going to hinder you. You have to start seeing yourself as being the dominant force in your own life. You have to start seeing yourself as the person that can make the right decisions, that can seek God and ask God for guidance. So the first step is to take responsibility for your own life and to stop blaming others. So the second weight that we have to overcome in order to go forward in our dreams is being too hard on ourselves. A lot of times we start looking at our own abilities and we see that we cannot possibly go forward. We cannot possibly accomplish that dream that God plants in our heart, the little inkling that we have of something greater than ourselves. And we shy away from it because we're looking at ourselves. So, first of all, you have to cut yourself a break. You have to give yourself a break. You have to realize that everyone has obstacles that they need to overcome. When you're looking at your abilities too much and you're looking at yourself too much, you're not realizing that everyone has to grow. No one, when God puts that inkling in your heart, are you ready to walk in it? No, you have to grow into it. You have to realize and humble yourselves and say, God, I can't possibly do this, but I know that you working through me can do it. And it's humbling, but there's nothing more satisfying than admitting that and seeing God help you daily to overcome certain things, to build up your abilities. You may not have abilities when God first calls you, but that's temporary. If you put your life in God's hands and trust Him to work things out, trust Him to help you. It's really you and God working together to bring your dream and God's dream in you to pass. So we have to stop being so hard on ourselves. We have to humble ourselves and realize that we can't possibly do it in our own strength, and we have to just rely on Him. Not sit back on our laurels and not do anything, but work with God to bring those dreams to come to pass. Work with God to be the person that God called you to be. So the third weight that you need to deal with is the fear of failure. And I have found through a lot of teaching by John Maxwell, actually, but failure, it's all how you look at it. It's really all how you look at it. If you're seeing failure as a problem with you, that you are a failure, then you're condemning yourself and you're literally putting weights on your own self. You're literally being your own worst enemy, really. So the other way to look at failure is that it's a lesson. If you go through something where you messed up and you didn't respond the right way, then you can say, well, I failed, but I'm going to learn from my mistake. If it becomes a learning session, if it becomes something that you're learning from, it's not really a failure. It's just part of your growth, okay? So, of course, anybody that's going forward toward their dream is going to fail. Your growth toward your dream is a process. It's not going to happen overnight. So if you're looking at your dream and you think it's going to be a cakewalk, it's not. If you see your life as being going from one failure to another and learning, eventually you're growing. Eventually you're getting closer and closer toward your goal. Eventually you're growing as a person as you're going through these failures. And it's not personal. Failure is an event, it's not personal. Don't fear making mistakes. Just know that it's part of the journey. It's part of the journey. When you start out doing anything, you're not going to do it well. You have to learn to do it well, just like anything that you learn how to do, just like riding a bike, just like driving a car. If you see your life as a learning process and going really from one failure to another, that's what it's all about. That's how we grow. That's how we learn. So a month or so ago, I led a small group in my church about dreaming. At the end of the small group, I handed out a list of questions. And I found that as we do them, it's almost like we can become objective over our own life. We can answer questions and then almost be listening for God to reveal another way of looking at them, and God to reveal that certain things really weren't failures. And it helps us take responsibility for our lives too, because we see the different things that we did that maybe we could have done differently. So I thought it would be a cool thing to do, to give you this list of questions. Now there's a whole bunch of them, but I'm going to give you a few in the beginning, okay? And I would just suggest take about 20 minutes of your time and where you're not going to be interrupted, and write the list of questions down and reflect on them and go through the process of answering the questions, okay? So I'm going to give you this list of questions now. Obviously you can rewind the video and listen to them again, but here they are, okay? So, what have you accomplished with your life at this present moment? Which of these accomplishments were really worthy of your time and effort? How many would stand the test of eternity? What have you learned through these things? What can you do differently? And what is now in your heart to do? Okay? So I would suggest take some moment, takes about 20 minutes, and ask yourself those questions. But it's so important to give yourself time to reflect. Give yourself time to look at your own life objectively. And you'd be surprised when you're doing this that God will reveal certain things to you. God will open up your eyes to things in your past that you hadn't noticed before. And it can be a real time of healing, and it can be a real time of casting off those weights and walking closer to your dream. So I hope you enjoyed this podcast today, and I hope that it helped you. I hope that it released you or helped you see the different things that we all have to deal with, okay? And please like and subscribe to this podcast. It's all a process. That's all there is to it. And the most important thing is not to give up on your dreams, okay? Have a wonderful week. I'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.